Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Achieving the Dream Chairman of the Board, Bob Templin.
Come on in and have a seat, everyone. Welcome to Dream 2017. This is our 13th year of Dream. Yeah, that's great. And every year it grows, and this year is no exception. So this is a record-breaking event that we have here today. And like you, our student success journey over the years has been a challenging one as we confront the numbers and have courageous conversations on our campuses about our students, and not enough of them are completing their programs of study the way that we would like. And like you, we have sometimes been frustrated by the slow progress of seeing the student success needle move ever so slow. And it doesn't go as fast as we would like, and it hasn't gone as far, but we are making progress, and we haven't given up. We're committed to improving student success, and we are making progress, and tonight we're going to celebrate a couple of colleges that are awesome and inspiring with the progress that they have made. Two great Achieving the Dream colleges. And your attendance here is a testament to your commitment to student success. Now, at Achieving the Dream, as we have grown, we've been growing and diversifying our board, and I'd like to introduce to you members of the board, and if they're here, I'd like for them to stand as I call their name, and would you hold your applause until the end? You have to be called first, Lou. See, he wasn't listening. So first is Leah Maya Austin. Leah is the former senior vice president at the Lumina Foundation, who was the visionary leader and designer of Achieving the Dream as an initiative when it first started. Diane Bastian, former owner of Panera Bread, the franchise serving Eastern North Carolina. Mark Herzog, who serves as our treasurer of ATD and is the former chancellor of the Connecticut Community College System. Christine Johnson, chancellor of the Community Colleges of Spokane in the state of Washington. John Mutz. John is the former lieutenant governor of the state of Indiana and former chairman of the board of the Lumina Foundation when we were just a twinkle in his eye. Eduardo Padron, president of Miami-Dade College, our country's largest institution of higher education. I'll take a moment of personal privilege here. Dr. Padron recently was honored last November by President Barack Obama with awarding him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is our nation's It is our nation's highest civilian honor, and it was an honor for us all, Eduardo, for you to receive that, and for community colleges to be recognized. Lou Testoni is the former managing partner of the Lake Erie market of PricewaterhouseCoopers. Mike Villarreal, the eight-term member of the Texas House of Representatives from San Antonio, who served from 2003 to 2015. And new board members that have just joined this year, Pam Edinger, president of Bunker Hill Community College, the largest community college in Massachusetts. Wes Moore, a youth advocate and CEO of Bridge EDU and author of 2 New York Times bestsellers, The Other Wes Moore and The Work. And Javier Miares, president of the University of Maryland University College, or known as UMUC in the Washington, D.C. area. So I'd like for you all to thank them for their service. And now it's my pleasure to introduce a true stalwart, a leader of the student success movement in the United States, our CEO and president, Dr. Karen Stout.
Well, thank you, and welcome to San Francisco. It's great to see so many people. 2,256 as of about a minute ago, and still increasing from what I understand. It's fitting that we bring DREAM to California this year, right into the heart of exciting community college innovation around equity, open education resources, workforce development, and guided pathways reforms. And also into this welcoming city, a city that recently also launched a College Promise initiative. There's so much energy in California's community colleges. We have nearly 1/3 of the 113 California community colleges represented here tonight at DREAM. Thank you, California and San Francisco, for welcoming a record number setting of participants. I'm fortunate and honored to welcome to the podium the new Chancellor of California's community colleges, Eloy Oakley, to further extend this warm welcome. And having known Eloy as a colleague president in his former role as president of Long Beach Community College District, as well as working with him as a member of the College Promise National Advisory Board, I know it's not a coincidence that California is leading the way in this reform work. Chancellor Oakley is himself a community college success story. After serving 4 years in the U.S. Army, he enrolled at Golden West College. He transferred to the University of California, Irvine, where he received his degrees of Bachelor of Arts in Environmental Analysis and Design and his Master's in Business Administration. Chancellor Oakley is the first Latino to lead the California community colleges. We're very proud of him. Welcome, Chancellor Eloy Oakley.
Thank you, Karen. And on behalf of all of us in California, you could not have picked a better person to lead Achieving the Dream. Thank you, Karen, for all your great work. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to California. You know, that out-of-control state. Welcome. Come join us in being out of control. This is a safe state. You are welcome here. Okay, enough jokes before I get in trouble. No, seriously, on behalf of the entire California Community College system, our more than 2.1 million students, 113 colleges, welcome to California. It's a pleasure to see you all here. It's great to have a room packed with all my favorite people. You're welcome to stay here if you'd like. We've got lots of work for you to do. And speaking of that work, the work that you are doing, that you're engaged in, that you're focused on, that you're here to talk about, could not be more important than ever, not only to the state of California, but to our nation. If anything, and we've learned many things post-election, but certainly one thing we've learned is that the nature of the economy has changed permanently. The default to get into the workforce is no longer a high school diploma. So how do we reorganize ourselves? How do we bring focus to our colleges and make sure that every young person, every working age adult, everyone has the opportunity to get a quality credential? The work you're doing could not be more important to the future of our nation. So thank you for being here. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing. And in California, we plan to be here side by side with you. There's been tremendous work going on in California, and we're very proud. I'm very proud to represent that work. In the last couple of years, there has been nearly $1 billion invested just in student success. Just in student success. And we're going to continue to invest in our ability to give every Californian an opportunity to achieve the California dream. So, on behalf of all of our colleges, thank you. Thank you for your work. We look forward to engaging with you, to focusing on our students, and to creating clear pathways toward the outcome that we all want to see. And by the way, achieving the dream is not just helping our students achieve their dream. It's also helping our faculty, our staff, our administrators achieve their dream of seeing successful outcomes for all of our students, because no faculty member, no administrator, no manager, no staff member comes to work at our colleges thinking that our students cannot succeed. We are all here for the same reason. So thank you for your work, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you, and have a great time in San Francisco. Spend lots of money while you're here. San Francisco needs it.
Thank you, Chancellor. We have a few additional welcomes. We want to welcome to Dream our South African colleagues who are visiting with their largest delegation ever and supported by the Kresge Foundation. Can our colleagues from South Africa stand, please? Now, I know they had a busy day yesterday, at least based on what I saw on Twitter. They were visiting our friends at the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching, as well as visiting with higher education leaders at Stanford University. We also welcome representatives from many of our founding partners, the American Association of Community Colleges, the Community College Research Center, Jobs for the Future, MDC, as well as colleagues from the Dana Center, the Carnegie Foundation, and specifically, and I haven't seen him, but I think he's here, Noah Brown, who's president and CEO of the Association of Community College Trustees. And we also have one of our new partners in our integrated planning and advising work from EDUCAUSE, the president and CEO, John O'Brien. So John, thank you for being here. Even as we grow in attendance, this convening remains unique. And that's why we're able to brand it simply as Dream. This is not your typical higher education conference. Dream is really a learning event. This is my 11th Dream. 9 as a college president, and now 2 as the president of Achieving the Dream. I go home every year from Dream exhausted but renewed, fueled for months by the energy, excitement, and passion of our Dream participants. Many of you are here this week with your college team. Cross-functional and non-hierarchical teams of college presidents, faculty, institutional research professionals, information technology leaders, student affairs professionals, academic affairs professionals, advisors, and counselors. I've watched, as I've walked through the halls today with the pre-conferences, I've watched you sit in groups and tear through the agenda, dog-earing pages, making assignments so your teams can cover as many sessions as possible. And some of you, I know, will meet every day with your teams to debrief on what you've learned and what you might take back to your campuses. And this team-based observation about Dream is truly data-informed, just like all of our work at ATD. 14 colleges that are here at Dream have teams of more than 20 people. Pierce College leads the way with, I think, 36 team members, but maybe more. Followed by Grossmont-Cuyamaca with 28. And the Community College of San Francisco with 27. The Dream program is really organized around the 7 capacities that we unveiled last year at Dream, the 7 capacities that I call the ATD way: capacities that have to be strong to establish the essential conditions to adopt large-scale transformational success work like guided pathways, and to advance initiatives like advising redesign, the integration of open education resources into full degree programs, the adoption of digital learning, the redesign of developmental education into programs rather than as standalone courses, and the linkage of non-cognitive supports from intake through completion, like those being adopted by our Working Student Success Network colleges. And DREAM also has opportunities for you to go deeper in important capacity areas, areas where we see colleges needing additional supports, specifically in the capacity areas of teaching and learning, engagement, especially faculty engagement and adjunct faculty engagement, data and technology, and equity. At last year's DREAM, we introduced the Institutional Capacity Assessment Framework and the assessment tool. And so far, 90 ATD colleges have launched ICAT, with more than 10,000 respondents, offering colleges a real unique opportunity for deep self-reflection and an opportunity to take action against the results that offer colleges a roadmap forward to prepare for and sustain the culture change that's necessary to accelerate our student success efforts. There are some new dimensions to DREAM. In addition to being intentional about sharing student voices with you, not just in the closing plenary, but throughout the week, we've added the opportunity for students to speak at each plenary session. We've also added a visual storytelling element to DREAM. You know, we use data to tell our stories, but really our narrative tells a story. And if captured in a visual way, can be a compelling tool to help us do case making that's so important for improvement. We've also added a timely session on Thursday during the Birds of a Feather time slot on the changing landscape of immigration to help our colleges to support their students in reaching their goals. This session is not just timely, it's consistent with ATD's values and our belief that access to a high-quality education in an inclusive environment is imperative for the advancement of a strong democracy and workforce. And of course, we continue this afternoon our annual tradition of acknowledging the excellence of our network colleges. I invite Paula Petro to the podium. Paula is a member of the Kresge Foundation's Board of Trustees, and we're honored to have the Kresge Foundation, a longtime friend and investor in ATD and community colleges, sponsor this year's Leah Meyer Alston Award. Paula is a civic leader working to strengthen nonprofit boards and nonprofit organizational effectiveness. She retired from the Capital Group as a senior vice president in 2011. And at Capital, one of the world's largest investment management firms, she was responsible for business development and client relationships for public pension plans. Please join me in welcoming Paula to the podium.
Wow, there are a lot of you out there. I'd like to first say welcome. This is my fair city, San Francisco. And Eloy, you're absolutely right. I want to reiterate, please feel free to spend as much money as you want, as you can. It's a great place to do that. So welcome. Excuse the rain. We do have boats if you need one. And thank you, Karen. I'm really, truly honored to be here on behalf of Kresge, who is a longtime partner and supporter of Achieving the Dream. Kresge is a private foundation located in metropolitan Detroit with a mission to improve the opportunity for low-income people in America's cities. We know we won't achieve our goals without improving the educational outcomes of low-income Americans. That's why we invest about $20 million each year in efforts to improve post-secondary success and access for those low-income students. Kresge didn't always fund community colleges, but about 10 years ago, we changed that because we know your institutions are indeed the engines driving educational outcomes for the people we most want to reach. And so, in the last decade, we have supported Achieving the Dream through operational grants, as well as through grants to expand ATD across the country to places like Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., Miami, Maine, and Michigan, and our home in Detroit, as well as to tribal colleges in Montana and Arizona. We're very proud of this partnership and also proud of a parallel track of our work in South Africa. This year, we have helped to bring together 39 leaders from South Africa who work on student access and success across the country. Welcome to DREAM, and we're here to learn right alongside you. I hope each and every one of you will welcome our South African friends. I had the pleasure of having dinner at the Carnegie Foundation with the team last night. Now, I'm proud to have the honor of presenting this year's Leah Meyer Austin Award. The Leah Meyer Austin Award was established in 2008 by the Lumina Foundation to recognize community colleges' outstanding achievement in supporting and promoting student success through the principles of Achieving the Dream. The award is given in honor of Leah Meyer Austin, an Achieving the Dream board member, and the former senior vice president at Lumina Foundation. It was her visionary leadership that shaped Achieving the Dream. Award winners have sustainably transformed their institutions by shaping programs, practices, and services across the entire institution to promote success for all their students. These institutions have dynamic and committed leadership who cultivate a culture of evidence and broad, active engagement of stakeholders, and pay particularly close attention to the needs of low-income students and students of color. As the landscape of community college reform has evolved since 2008, so has the Leah Meyer Austin Award. Originally, this award was given to colleges for specific achievements, such as significant improvements in developmental education reform, community engagement, and strong leadership. Since 2013, the award has been made for systemic institutional change across the whole college. This year, we have co-winners with distinctly different stories to tell about their journey with ATD and their focus on student success. Our first winner of the Leah Meyer Austin Award is Miami-Dade College. Before I invite them to the stage, please allow me to share a glimpse at their efforts. Miami-Dade College has long been known for its innovative efforts, but a few years ago, the college found itself in a quandary. Assessing its student performance data in 2010, the college realized that too many barriers prevented too many students from staying in college or completing their academic program. Barriers included unstructured student pathways, too many academic choices, misaligned support, and unclear or even inconsistent information. To address that complicated set of challenges, the college undertook a bold, comprehensive, and institution-wide series of changes to transform Miami-Dade. The reform work had a profound impact on the college's culture. The cross-functional pollination of the work created a foundation of mutual trust and collaboration. College leadership encouraged teams to explore options and to make recommendations on the student experience and institutional culture. Based on the work of the college teams, SharkPath was created to improve the student experience. Since the exception of Shark Path, between 2012 and 2015, the percentage of students selecting a program of study has steadily increased across all student groups. The college redesigned math and English. Now, 68% of first-time in college students who come directly from high school into Shark Path enroll in Gateway Mathematics for their first term. And we know that is the most significant predictor of student performance and completion. This compared with just 49% in 2012. Among Shark Path students, the average number of first-term enrolled students increased from 2012 to 2015, raising the percentage of students who reach sophomore status at the end of their first spring term from 13% in 2012 to 16% in 2015. Will President Padron and the Miami-Dade College, the team, will you please come to the podium to accept your Leah Meyer Austin Award?
Thank you very, very much. Tonight, I stand on the shoulders of extraordinary men and women at Miami-Dade College, whose commitment to student achievement and to the pursuit of excellence is legendary. And it's on their behalf that we, members of Miami-Dade College, are honored, privileged, proud, and yes, very grateful for this award. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, President Padron, for all the outstanding work you do. Our co-winner of the Leah Meyer Austin Award is Pierce College District in Washington State. Before I call the college to the stage, allow me to share with you a few highlights of their efforts. Pierce's journey with ATD began in 2012 when they realized that the equity issue was a very significant challenge. The college needed to better understand its data to learn to make better evidence-based decisions. And through this, the college hoped that this would eventually result in broad-scale cultural changes. By engaging 200 faculty and staff in planning for student success, Pierce expanded its capacity to collect, disaggregate, analyze, and use data, including hiring new staff. It gave all faculty direct access via dashboards to data that helps them assess student classroom success according to a very wide variety of factors, and to compare their performance to that of their peers. Pierce felt that bringing together a number of reform efforts and taking on a comprehensive approach would have the most impact. The college re-engineered the student experience under the umbrella Start to Finish. It reallocated $3 million from existing budgets to better support its student success priorities. It redesigned its pre-college math sequence in ways that focused on improving basic math skills and persistence. And it also reached beyond students who were college ready to also help students with only basic skills to prepare to enter college. By engaging in this whole college, informed by careful collection analysis, access to and use of disaggregated student data, Pierce College is steadily increasing student success rates over time. Let me give you some statistics. Fall to spring persistence rates increased from 81% to 84%. Fall to fall retention rates increased for all student groups, and the average for all students has increased from 51% to 60%. Go ahead and clap. That deserves a clap. And the 3-year graduation rate improved from 19% to 31%. Will Chancellor Michelle Johnson and the Pierce College District team, maybe not all 36, just kidding, will you please come to the stage and accept your Leah Meyer Austin Award? All 36. Come on up.
We'll give them just a moment. Denise, you sit. Looks like they're almost here. First, I'd like to say thank you so much to ATD for recognizing the work that Pierce College has been doing on student success. We are honored to receive this prestigious Leah Meyer Austin Award. We know that the excellence that it honors is one that we take to heart. I think that you can see that we are fully engaged at Pierce College. And engagement is one of the core assets, capacities of ATD schools. You know, in 2012, you heard that we joined ATD. Prior to that time, our trustees had gone to the GISS, and we disaggregated our data. And we realized at that time that we were not getting the results that we thought we had. Although student success was committed in our hearts, we realized through our data that our actions were not delivering on that promise. 50 years ago, Pierce College started, and we know this particular year is one really, really important to us as we look back. We say each and every day that we are a data-informed, mission-driven institution. And we know our mission, and we proclaim it. It says that we will create quality educational opportunities for our diverse community of learners to thrive in an evolving world. Okay? Yeah. And to do that, you need to think about equity for all students. With us today, I'm going to tell just a little bit because they all represent the ICAT capacity areas. First, let's begin with leadership and vision. We have 4, and if you raise your hand, we have 4. Oh, they're sitting there. Why don't you come up? We have 4 of our board of trustees with us out of 5. Raise your hands. Our 5th one would be here, but he's out of the country. We also have our 2 college presidents. Raise your hands as we go. We have our vice presidents, our deans, our directors, and we have leaders among our faculty and among our staff, particularly in our student services areas. So they're all here. If you think about the issue, when we came to Dream 3 years ago, actually Joy Hardiman, a very good friend of ours, as she was leading the students and we were hearing their stories, we knew that we had to really take a look at equity. So we set a bold goal. We said that we were going to close the achievement gap by 2020, and we're on the way. We have work to do, but we are on the way there. We also knew that we had to change processes and practices, part of the capacity. So with that, what did we do? We made mandatory orientation, advising, and a college success class across the board. We had to look at each and every student in the teaching and learning process. So we have trans ed, basic skills, because those transitions are really important, up through developmental and on to college level. And we have faculty here who represent all of those areas. We reformed English and math and made huge changes and strides in the way that students were going forward. We know that the whole student is important, so here we have individuals with student success, we have individuals with student life, and most importantly, we have our student, Nantag, because it's all about him. We have an amazing data and institutional effectiveness team. And not only do they share and know about the data, they've taught many, many individuals. So every day, faculty and staff can look at data and see what's happening to the processes that we're engaged in. We care so much about what we're doing here. But I also want to acknowledge two people. And those are our ATD coaches, Diane Troyer and Linda Villanueva. Because they're part of our family, and they were a fabulous fit. Why? Because they pushed us. They also recognized the great things that we were doing, but they also knew the areas where we could and needed to do better. So we want to thank them. We want to thank ATD for recognizing us, but most of all, we just want to be grateful that we are part of this network, because really what happens, all of you really have shared in this award. Because we've been coming for 5 years. We've been bringing an average of 20 to 25 people, a little bit bigger group this year. By the way, most of these people just found out tonight that they have won the award. They didn't know. And so because of you, we have learned from you. And we have gone back and we have implemented your strategies to help us be successful. So thank you in sharing this award with us. It's a great honor. Thank you so much for this award.
Bear with us just a moment. Thank you, Chancellor Johnson. And let's give another round of applause to these two outstanding institutions. Thank you. And now, Karen, back to you.
And also, could we give a round of applause to the Kresge Foundation for their important sponsorship of the Leah Meyer Austin Award and their decision 10 years ago to invest in community colleges. As I remember in my former life as a development officer, knowing that Kresge was not necessarily investing in community colleges, and hopefully we've shown the importance of our work and the results that we can achieve for our students and our communities. It's now my pleasure to welcome Leah Meyer Austin to the stage to introduce this year's Dream Scholars. Leah.
I just had a thought, looking out at all these people. Do you know, 11 years ago, there were 270 people, if I recall correctly, at our first DREAM conference. We almost had that many up here on the stage, so that is great. Good afternoon, everyone. Achieving the Dreams Dream Scholars Program is a student engagement and professional development opportunity for 6 students from active Achieving the Dream institutions. Dream Scholars are selected based on their commitment to their educational journey and leadership skills conveyed in their applications. These scholars are active participants in this Dream Conference programming and activities. They will serve as student responders at conference sessions. They will analyze opportunities and challenges of institutional change efforts from their own lens as community college students. We hope that you, our conference attendees, will leave DREAM empowered to engage students more intentionally as partners in institutional reform. It was great to see a student up here with the rest of the group. That was inspiring and wonderful. Our goal is that through active participation in the program, these special students will challenge and enhance their own leadership, critical thinking, and networking skills. This year, we are pleased to have with us as Dream Scholars the following students. Will you please stand when I read your name? Christopher Sun, Onondaga Community College. Enrique Sepulveda III, Miami-Dade College, Wolfson Campus. Jesus Suarez, Cuyamaca College. McDonald Taylor Jr., Delaware County Community College. Rike Wright, the Community College of Allegheny County. And finally, Yolanda Zenteno, Columbus State Community College. Each of these students recorded a video prior to this conference, and when you have a few moments, I urge you to view their introductory videos. You can find the videos on the ATD YouTube channel. They're wonderful. The students are led by Dr. Joy Hardiman, Emerita Faculty, the Evergreen State College. And Dr. Hardiman will engage and foster student learning opportunities at DREAM and has done so before this conference, so thank you very much. Achieving the Dream staff members are also involved in this enterprise. They will serve as guides to the students throughout their Dream Scholars experience. And in addition, each student will be mentored by the core team leader at their institution before, during, and after DREAM 2017. We will hear from one of these students later in the program. Please join me once again in welcoming our Dream Scholars.
As we all know, we gather here this week at a critical moment in time for our collective work as community colleges. A moment that is absolutely essential for us as community college leaders and practitioners, funders and partners to collectively embrace. I believe now is the time for community colleges to leverage and unleash our fundamental strength, our localness, to make a difference. An article in this month's Atlantic magazine titled, Americans are optimistic about the communities they live in, but not their nation. Why? By James Fallow, brought this notion home for me. Think about the reach of our nation's nearly 1,200 community colleges, and think about our potential if we look at completion and access in a new way, not as end goals as themselves, but as part of our central role in strengthening our communities, in building the economic and social and civic vitality of our communities. Our plenary panel will begin to make a case for a next generation of community college leadership and reform. Reform that renews our focus on access and success through a different lens, a lens of economic and social mobility. So I'm honored to welcome our panelists to the stage. First, Jim Jacobs, president of Macomb Community College in Michigan. Christine McPhail, Emerita Professor of Higher Education and founder of the Community College Doctoral Program at Morgan State University in Baltimore. And an Achieving the Dream leadership coach from the very beginning. And welcome back to the stage, Chancellor Oakley. And finally, it's an honor to welcome David Dodson to the podium, president of MDC, a position he has held since 1999. Now, David is well known to us at Achieving the Dream. MDC was not only a founding partner, it also incubated our work in the early years before we became an independent nonprofit. And some of you might remember David's inspiring TED-like talk during last year's lunch plenary. David will take about 10 minutes to frame the national context for our conversation, and after his framing, our panel will share their perspectives on David's call for us to shape place-based responses to creating pathways to economic mobility for our students. Please join me in welcoming David Dodson.
I want to echo whoever said, wow, this is a tremendous group. And as somebody who's been at these meetings, what began as meetings years ago, this is part family reunion and part revival. It's a wonderful spirit. I want to say some opening comments to frame this vitally important topic, renewing our focus on access and success. And I want to do it, if you can see this map, by inviting you to consider the importance of access and success when looked at through the frame of economic and social mobility. The map that is being displayed now is a visual depiction of a study that I know many of you have seen and probably internalized, the Equality of Opportunity study that Professor Raj Chetty, now at Stanford, and colleagues developed, taking big data to look at children born in 1980, in the early 1980s, and then to measure where they ended up as young adults in 2012 on the income distribution. In other words, that's a measure of mobility. How does the place where a person ended up relate to where they started out as children? And you see on this map, which is color-coded, a disturbing pattern for our nation. The regions that are dark green are the regions where a person born at the bottom of the income distribution, in the bottom 20%, had even odds, 20% odds or better, of rising to the top. But in every other part of the country, and you see on this map, very little is forest green. In every other part of the country, this map depicts the data that say the chance of a child born to parents in the bottom 20% of the income distribution, the chance of moving up to the top, are less than even odds. This is a national issue of profound consequences, because if you think about the American dream, it really is about the myth, and we believe the truth, that where you start out in life should not determine where you end up. But at least in as far as this very powerful big data study of all Americans born in 1980 tells us, the opportunity for the upward trajectory of young people born at the bottom is compromised, particularly when looked at the ability to rise to the very top. And another way of interpreting this map would be to say, in no part of America, except in these small patches of dark green, do people born at the bottom of the income distribution face even odds of moving to the top or even to the second economic income quintile from the top. So upward mobility is significantly constrained on the upside. Now, my job, I think, is to make you feel bad so this panel then can make you feel good. That was my assignment. So here are three representative geographies where achieving the dream is at work. The top left is Cleveland, the top right is Charlotte, the bottom is Houston. I know it's hard for you to see these numbers, but don't worry about that. Look at the far left columns and look at the lime green numbers in the far left columns of each city. That indicates the degree to which someone born at the bottom of the income distribution is likely to end up in the bottom fifth of the income distribution as an adult. And you can see in most of these, if you look at the far left column, the lime green band is bigger than any other. And what that basically says is, for adults in the Raj Chetty study, young people who grew up and were born at the bottom were disproportionately likely to end up at the bottom of the income distribution as adults. Even odds for a child born at the bottom would be a 20% likelihood of ending up in each quintile. But the likelihood that a child born at the bottom in Cleveland is 39% that they will stay at the bottom as an adult. It's 39% in Charlotte, and even in a dynamic economy such as Houston, the chance that a child born to parents at the bottom would himself or herself be at the bottom as an adult is nearly 30%. So there's profound intergenerational stickiness at the bottom of the income distribution for children who start out in very poor families. And what that means for us, those children become our students. And unless they have some transformational episode in their life, they are likely themselves to be poor adults who then give birth to poor students. And this pattern begins to repeat itself. So that's the problem of intergenerational stickiness at the bottom, just like this clicker is stickiness. Here's another way just to look at it. It's a little easier to see for these three commuting zones, Cleveland, Charlotte, and Houston. There's 729 commuting zones, economic commuting zones in the United States. That's where Raj Chetty and his team developed their data. Number one on Chetty's list is the economic commuting zone with the least vigorous upward mobility. Number 729 is the best. And so you see of these three achieving the dream regions, Cleveland, Ohio, ranks 88th out of 729 for the likelihood that a child born at the bottom would be able to get to the top 20%. Charlotte ranks 53 out of 729. Remember, one is worse. And Houston, a vibrant economy, only manages to end up in the middle of the pack. And even in that vibrant economy, fewer than 10% of children born at the bottom are likely to make it to the top, and 28% are likely to stay stuck at the bottom. So what this says in a place like Houston or Charlotte, another vigorous economy, is that economic vitality in and of itself does not translate into economic mobility. So something more is needed. That's the bad. Are you feeling bad yet? That's the bad news. But the good news is here. And I want to call your attention to the blue box on the left side of the chart. This is from another longitudinal data set, the Pew Charitable Trust, here looking at the power of the acquisition of a 4-year post-secondary credential. If someone born at the bottom 20% of the income distribution does not get, in this case, a 4-year post-secondary credential, on average, they have a 47% chance of ending up at the bottom. Even odds of ending up stuck at the bottom where they started out. But look at the next chart, and here's the very best news. Look at that brown line that says 10%. That's the same group, the likelihood of being stuck at the bottom for people born in the bottom 20% if they do get a post-secondary credential, here a 4-year degree. The odds shift decisively from a 47% chance of being stuck at the bottom to a 10% chance. Now, achieving the dream is all about data, and Madam President, I don't know of data that is more powerful than this. A post-secondary credential by these longitudinal Pew data is actually a passport to liberation and upward mobility. It is an exit point for leaving that intergenerational stickiness at the bottom that plagues people who are born poor. And there's no more important, it seems to me, liberating tool in our society than what we see in this chart. A post-secondary credential doesn't allow a few exceptional people to beat the odds. It fundamentally changes the odds for people born at the bottom of the income distribution. So that's the very good news. But a little more bad news, or at least sobering news. A couple of weeks ago in the New York Times, 2 articles appeared in the same issue. One was an article called "Why Succeeding Against the Odds May Make You Sick." It told the story of a phenomenon called John Henryism, named for the railroad worker who tried to wrestle a pneumatic drill or a pneumatic pile driver with his superhuman personal strength of wielding a sledgehammer. He actually won that contest against mechanics, and then dropped dead, giving rise to the tale and the song of John Henry. John Henry tells us what the cost of personal heroism can be unless they're deep, profound, supporting culture and systems that make it possible for someone to succeed. Without that, as this article pointed out, succeeding against the odds can make us sick. So they're unacceptable personal burdens that fall on underrepresented people trying to navigate a culture where a commitment to equity is not pervasive. I want to say that again because it's sort of the key point here. This phenomenon of John Henryism describes the unintended and unacceptable personal burdens that fall on underrepresented people trying to navigate a culture where a commitment to equity is not pervasive. And so that gave me a gut check feeling when I read in the same New York Times issue a remarkable article about DACA students who were trying to persevere toward their credentials at a number of universities in the United States, all the while looking over their shoulder in the midst of a toxic political debate about their very identity in this country and wondering if they belonged here, much less if they could succeed. Personal heroism is not a solution to completion. Attention to equity and design in execution is a solution, and that's really why we're here. Couple of more points. I'm just not going to elaborate on this. Some of you have seen this cloud before. If you look at these circles, they're really a depiction of the work that has to happen in society to help someone move toward that liberating post-secondary credential and ultimately toward the brass ring of using that credential to connect to living wage employment, which is the ultimate point of economic uplift. We have to make sure every person completes an education foundation, K through 12, persists through that middle circle of getting a meaningful, market-relevant post-secondary credential, our business, and then connecting that credential to rich labor market opportunities in the form of living wage employment. That really is the work of which, if you look at this graphic, we occupy a central part. But it's important to understand as we do this inside work of engineering of our own circles, that the work that we do and the path that students follow exists in a cultural ecosystem of positive and negative forces. You see some of those in this map. Cultural messages about who can and can't succeed. What are the cultural messages our students are hearing about whether they are and should be on the path to success? A criminal justice system that can derail the most ambitious and hopeful young person. The lack or presence of economic dynamism, a great conditioner of whether a student persists toward that end point. So as we do our work on the inside game of re-engineering our colleges, we have to pay acute attention to the ecosystem of forces, many of which are not supportive of the post-secondary attainment goal that's so key to the American dream. We have to be mindful of context even as we work deeply in our own institutions. And I loved the Leah Meyer Austin Award. Thank you for illustrating this next slide with your own success stories. In order to successfully help students navigate an ecosystem that can be hostile and to avoid the high personal cost of John Henryism as the price of success, we have to pay attention to three things. And you couldn't have heard it more beautifully articulated if it had been scripted by the two award winners. We have to pay attention to the culture of our institutions and to the cultural messages that are emanating from the broader society. What are the dominant cultural narratives in our community and in our institutions about who deserves to succeed and who can be upwardly mobile? That's culture. We have to think in terms of systems. You all know this. I'm preaching to the choir, but as somebody said, even the choir needs to hear a good sermon occasionally. The old saw about systems change tells us that every system is perfectly designed to get the results it produces. So I would ask you, we all saw that map. If every system is perfectly designed to get the results it produces, the system of which we're a part has been perfectly designed to create unacceptably poor opportunities for upward mobility for people born poor. Fact. So as we do our bit in our colleges, how do we think about context and be ever mindful not only of our own internal institutional systems, but be ever mindful of those external systems that might impinge on our students and their chance for success. And lastly comes leadership. And many of you know the work of Ron Heifetz, who talks about a leader's role fundamentally is about one thing: closing the gap between the values people hold and the reality people face. The values we hold in America still, I think we believe, are that everybody should have a chance to move beyond the circumstances of their birth. But the reality is very different, and that calls for leadership from all of us. So finally, here's the question. Vigilant attention to equity is needed to create pathways to economic mobility that will lift people who are stuck in intergenerational economic limbo. Vigilant attention to equity. Here's my question for us in this meeting. What aspects of our college systems, practices, and culture will need special attention in order for this kind of pervasive equity to prevail? And what does that mean for our leadership, us as leaders? My dream that I hope we can achieve is that before too very long, we can look at a transformed map of mobility in America and know that Achieving the Dream colleges have played a leadership role in reigniting the American dream.
Thank you, David. I'm going to ask the first question to Jim Jacobs, and I really want to focus with Jim on a group of students that I have called the forgotten adult student. Adult students are not entering our community colleges at the rate and pace that they once did. And as we disaggregate our data, we're finding, especially if they're attending part-time, that they're not completing at a rate that's sufficient. And Jim, could you reflect a little bit on what you think the factors are, and within the context of David's remarks, what can we do as leaders within our community-based, place-based systems to improve that, to improve access, reach adults in new ways, but also improve completion and thus the economic mobility of adults and the generational influence that that will have on their children?
I think with adults, and again, we talk about people who are over 24 years of age who are coming to community colleges, they're coming, but they're coming often as, in the customized training, in the economic development areas, in the non-credit areas, and we sometimes have almost two schools going on. We have our credit students who are younger, trying to finish degrees, and a lot of our adults coming for 2 or 3 courses. They consider themselves skill builders. They're there for a particular short period of time. Most of them have families, they have children, and what we need to think about is a way in which we can take their initial interests, which is to get a sustainable job, get a place in the society, and see that first is a first step to not only their success, but the success of their families. I like David's little map of the infrastructure of opportunity. One of the key parts of that opportunity, of course, is the family and the family culture. And what I think we need to do more of is see the interaction between what we do on the continuing ed, non-credit, customized training side, and how that's linked to credit programs. Almost in a sense, developing a kind of our own internal articulation process. The second, I would also think, is that a lot of our students, particularly students who are coming from other countries, there is a real possibility for intergenerational learning, that the students who come to us as young people have come out of families where those families also need jobs and work. And to kind of treat the family as a whole for the institution, I think becomes a very, very important part. And finally, let's bring this back to also employers. You know, one of the key statement in any time you meet with employers is, you know, we have a skills gap, we have a crisis, et cetera. That crisis can be easily resolved by looking at their employees who are currently at work. In other words, part of the answer to the skills crisis is to look at the mobility of the individuals who are within these jobs. And I think as we start to make our challenge and our challenge of America's promise, perhaps one of the hidden parts of America's promise is going to be how we can raise the bar for American corporations to see that a 2-year or high school degree is not sufficient as an entry-level point in an employment for a sustainable job. And if that's the case, I think we can bridge into seeing companies playing a role in some of this. And as a result, I think we have a great opportunity, and just to put it in terms that we can all understand as community college people, as we look at our enrollments, and a lot of us see a softening of our enrollments. If you look at your high school graduation classes and just look in your communities and see the amount of adults over 24 that have some college, that you'll see that number dwarfs our high school students. And not that it isn't important to take students out of high school and make them successful, but as a corollary, what I would say is that there's a lot of adults who could use the kinds of opportunities that we're providing for students in achieving the dream.
Thanks, Jim. Christine, David speaks to the need for place-based responses because of the stalling upward mobility is a national issue, but that there are place-based solutions for that. You've been with ATD from the beginning. Mm-hmm. You've been working with colleges on the ground from the beginning. What are you seeing as a coach that's accelerating the institutional work around supporting economic mobility for students, completion and economic mobility, especially as it relates to our work around the equity capacity?
Okay. David has a way of getting you to face the dimensionality of the community colleges in terms of us looking at the colleges we wish we have and the ones that we actually live in every day. As a coach, we visit the colleges, and we are able to take a panoramic view of what's going on at the colleges. And you heard our president from Washington say that the coaches push the colleges to take a deeper look at what's going on. So over the years, what we see is that, and on the program here, we see that we have 15 sessions focusing on equity. And those sessions, and when I looked at the descriptions, bring us to the attention of the big picture piece. But we don't see specifically, if I'm looking at those titles, the idea that we've convinced the colleges to deal with that intentionality of going where you went, David, with your conversation. So we are probably going to see, as we probe deeper for the next couple of days, we may see some misalignment with what's actually going on with the programs and services and how colleges are aligning those with the whole student experience. But when I take a look at that and I put my professor cap on, I saw 3 major categories of work when I think about reporting out what are the colleges doing and what we're learning. So I'm seeing that the work is going on at what we call the equity-minded kind of work that we have to do. How do we then connect our budgeting, our strategic planning with making this real? And when we're talking about the equity-minded work, we're talking about those conversations that would move it from talk to action. And I think we may be stuck there with some of that. And I saw you notice that challenge was execution. So the equity-minded work is going on, but I do believe we probably still have more conversations to take place. And folks, you know that the conversations are getting better. 10 years ago, it was very difficult and very challenging to have the conversations to even talk about equity. Now we've seen an evolution of just a comfort zone of being able to talk about equity. So equity-mindedness is some of the work that we see going on. We also see the colleges dealing with what we would call the cultural competence. How do we get the colleges to recognize that we may need to know more about that data that we have? How do we develop the competencies throughout the institutions to deal with the work that we're doing? Cultural competence is not a Cinco de Mayo event or Black History Week. I know that surprises some of you guys. But we have to get beyond that so that we can start to deal with that. What skill sets do we really need in order to deal with the work? So we talk about equity mindedness, we talk about the cultural competencies, we see that work emerging. Then we start to take a look at the universal design learning that needs to take place. And that's the core of the institution, David, you talked about. Right smack dab in the middle of culture. What's the culture of this college? Are we asking the right questions? Albert Einstein was once reported to say that if I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution to that problem, he said that I would spend the first 55 minutes of that work determining the right question to ask. For if I knew the right question to ask, I could spend the last 5 minutes solving the problem. So maybe we need to spend some more time taking a look at what are those questions that we really have to ask. Estella Ben-Simone here in California tells us that we may need to take a look at the questions that we're asking inside of higher education. When they did their research, they said that the narrative that they were looking at and listening to faculty and staff on the campuses, we were asking a lot of questions about the students. Are our students prepared? Are our students motivated? Or do our students exert enough effort to do this work? Ben-Simone says shift the questions and start asking questions about the institution and about our practitioners. Do we, as faculty, staff, have the competencies that we need to deal with the diverse issues of our students that they bring? NCES tells us that many of our students bring 6 or more type of risk and baggages with them to the institutions. Are we asking their questions about that? So the questions that Ben-Simone says that we should start to ask is, how do our policies and our practices enable some of these inequities to occur? And what kinds of shifts do we need to make in our conversations to address the challenges that our students face? And then we develop what Ben-Simone calls the knowledge funds to start to deal with these in a very real way, that they become systems thinking, David, in our everyday practices that we see at the institution. So in summary, that's kind of the deep dive in this work. And here in this report here, if you haven't seen it, it's in your packet. It's the annual report. It gives you a snapshot of some of the work that's taking place to promote greater levels of student success. And I know you'll see more in those 15 different sessions that you have on equity here at the conference.
Thank you, Christine. Eloy, David mentioned systems, leadership systems and culture, and you were a college president at an institution and you've moved to a system approach, and you're working really hard in California to integrate a lot of strategies to have a system approach. Can you talk about why that system approach is important and how it supports institutional work?
Well, you know, in California, I mean, there's no doubt that California has been and will be committed to improving the lives of its citizens. The question is, even with all the investment that's been made, we still don't see the investment that, or the movement that we should have. I don't know if that's me or, but in any case, so there's been tremendous amount of investment in student success in California. The question is, how do we leverage that investment in a way that gets to the impact that we want to see? With social mobility being at the heart of that outcome, the question needs to be, not just what does a community college in one of our 113 communities do, but how does that community college become central to the social mobility conversation that includes the K-12 system, that includes public universities, that includes philanthropy, that includes municipalities. How do we bring about a system-wide approach, not just in the community college system, but across all sectors of education, which includes everyone? I mean, if you look at it from the perspective of the student or the family, they're not looking at the silos that we've created. The only silos that exist are the ones we've created ourselves in education. And so we need to take this opportunity, and in California, this is how we're looking at it. We have an opportunity to take this nearly $1 billion of investment and change the culture of how we operate, change the questions that we're asking, change the relationship and the nature of the relationship between our K-12 partners and our public university partners, blur completely the lines between them, and focus on the student, and focus on the neighborhoods. So that's the heart of our community colleges. We are at the center of this conversation, and we need to take the leadership in this conversation. No one else is in a better place to begin and end this conversation than our community colleges. We are the heart of social mobility in our communities. And so I'm pleased in the direction we're going. It's going to be a lot of work because we have to really change the way we think about this, and it begins with, every money talks. And so you can always tell what a college or what a system values when you follow the money. So our goal now is to make sure the money flows in directions that break down the silos that we're talking about, that actually show evidence that we care about this whole issue of social mobility.
Thank you. So David, I'll close with you. And just a question. You said college completion is not a panacea. And you put up the infrastructure of opportunity chart. And I'm just wondering if you could reflect a little bit on what community colleges can do to change that infrastructure of opportunity in their communities, building on Eloy's comment.
Well, the last comments were perhaps the comments we need to hold on to, because I think community colleges occupy a unique place in that community and economic ecosystem, both receiving people, adults and younger folks leaving high school who are experiencing economic and experiential isolation. I mean, the fact that of isolation and alienation from the mainstream of so many of the populations who are counting on us to help transform their options, I think it's more profound than we might often recognize unless we have daily contact with young people and adults who sense a disconnection. And I cannot see another institution that has the ability and the tools to bridge from isolation to opportunity other than a community college. Public schools, of course, are essential. Our universities are essential. They don't have the same social function, integrating, bridging function that an excellent community college needs to have. So I think that's important. And the place-based notion is particularly true because the map of mobility and opportunity is highly contextual and highly place-determined. Success matters more on zip code than genetic code, just like social determinants of health. And we have the ability, we've heard from these comments and from our Leah Meyer Austin winners, there's an acute sensitivity of how is our economy operating for people who are disconnected and people who want to advance. Community colleges ought to be able to have an acutely powerful analysis of that, because the ultimate end game is equipping our students with a powerful credential that unlocks living wage economic possibilities. Without that, there is no economic mobility, and that means an acute understanding of economic opportunity, the ability to talk to employers, to have them understand that talent development is just important to a healthy community as talent recruitment, a really important point that needs to be a conversation, and inspiring people, adults or older adults or younger, who have grown up without a personal understanding of how to navigate the workplace of opportunity. That bridging work is really essential. And I know this is hard because the inside work of re-engineering that Christine spoke so beautifully about and that colleges are engaged in, that DREAM has been focused on, is more than full-time work. But there's this extramural role, I think we're saying, for community colleges that is going to be necessary to be played, dealing from what we know well, which is teaching, student support, culture of learning, but carrying that outside our walls so that we can leverage the place that we have in the ecosystem. So that's external work. And the real question is, how can we do both the necessary internal re-engineering while knowing that, I would say, if not us, who else has the capacity, the insight into what people are struggling with to try to move ahead, and the wherewithal in terms of programs to be able to be that connecting rod. So I'm afraid we've just made the load bigger, but I mean, the energy of people coming into this room, to me, was people recognize reality. One of the things the leader has to do is to read reality truthfully. And we recognize that the reality is the people we care about aren't moving ahead, and we have the tools to make something happen. And the experience that lets us name the issue with integrity so that our communities can get to work. So,
Well, thank you. And thank you to the entire panel. Let's give the panel a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. So before we conclude the opening session and move to the reception, we have a real treat for you. I want to welcome our first DREAM Scholar to the stage, Yolanda Zenteno Martinez from Columbus State Community College in Ohio. Yolanda. Knock it out of the park.
Good evening. I'm kind of short, but so it's evening. So back home it's night, so I want to be like tonight, but right now I'm going to read my poem for all of you. I hope you can get something out of it. ¿Quién soy yo? Who am I? I am Yolanda Centeno Martinez, daughter of a strong, fearless woman named Sandra, and Martin, the best father one could have. The oldest sister to Shakira and Teresa, a first-generation college student. I'm one of the thousands of immigrants achieving the dream thanks to Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. One of the many immigrants that before June of 2012 had no chance of attending college. I'm November 14, 2014, the day I have to let go of the man that taught me. The sky is not the limit. Run towards your fears, not away. And don't worry, I will always be there for you. Just look up. I'm from waking up to the smell of chilaquiles and coffee for breakfast, going to church every Sunday morning with my grandparents, and to my Aunt Maria's house for the holidays every year. I'm blessed to be a student ambassador at Columbus State. I'm the drop cloth hanging from my window that's been with me through endless buckets of pain, through my growth as a painter beginning at age 12, through all those summer evenings feeling drained but finishing the job. I'm a strong believer that who you are and where you come from should not hinder your potential or your goals. It should only make you a role model to others. I am Jennifer Eschbach, Maya Jordan, Amosha Javi, Genevieve Sharon, Kim Ryan, Karen Shalko, and every other role model that has made an impact in my life. Yo soy Yolanda, from Mexico to the world. Thank you. Oh my God.
With that, our opening session is over. We will join one another in the reception in the exhibit area. Thank you, everyone, and have a great conference.